6 Eagles players have been named to the Pro Bowl, and Eagles general manager Howie Roseman has his fingerprints on all of these moves. We're talking about that on today's Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr., and no matter where you are or how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. I want to hit this before we get started. Can we get to 97,000 subscribers before Sunday? As I've talked about all year long, my goal is to get to 100K by season's end. We're 275 people away from 97,000. Eagles-Giants coming up on Sunday. We're going to be doing a watch party for that game, so subscribe and join us. And then you take a look at the subs picked up this week by show. On Monday, 61 new real ones. Hit that sub button. Thank you so much. On Tuesday, 145 new subscribers. On Wednesday, 141. Today's show. Can we beat these two numbers right here? Let's go Birds. Lock us in. As for those 6 players named to the Pro Bowl here during the 2024 campaign, some easy selections here and some other players where you're like, wow, very impressive seasons that they were able to put together. Running back Saquon Barkley is on his way to becoming NFL Offensive Player of the Year. Cam Jurgens, in his first year as a starting center, named to a Pro Bowl. I have a lot of thoughts on that coming up. Landon Dickerson going to 3 straight Pro Bowls at left guard. Lane Johnson, Eagles right tackle, continues to be arguably the best right tackle of this century, definitely of this decade. Jalen Carter off to his first Pro Bowl in year 2. And off-ball linebacker Zack Baun. He changes positions from what he had done previously with New Orleans, and the accolades continue to come his way. 2 Pro Bowl snubs who we're going to spend some time talking about later on in the show, but a lot of you are probably commenting their names already down in the comment section. Left tackle Jordan Mailata, who's the highest graded offensive player in football, and wide receiver A.J. Brown, who is a top 5 wide receiver, oftentimes on Sundays, looks like the number 1 guy. He missed some time. A lot of talent at that wide receiver spot in the NFC and AFC. Obviously, for this talking point, in the NFC. But A.J. Brown, Jordan Mailata, they should both be Pro Bowlers. Let's now flip the page to which players did make the Pro Bowl. And if you can't read this, I'm just going to name them out real quick. If you're watching on a smartphone or a TV, maybe even a computer, you can probably see it. The quarterbacks, Jane Daniels, Sam Darnold, Jared Goff. Wide receivers, these are the players who beat out A.J. Brown. Tough crew right here. Justin Jefferson, C.D. Lamb, Terry McLaurin, Amon-Ra St. Brown. The running back, Saquon Barkley, Jahmyr Gibbs, Josh Jacobs. Kyle Juszczyk is the fullback. Defensive ends, Nick Bosa, Rashawn Gary, Micah Parsons. Interior linemen, Jalen Carter, Dexter Lawrence, Vita Vea. Outside linebackers, Jonathan Greenard and Andrew Van Ginkel, as well as Jared Verse. The punter, Jack Fox. The place kicker, Brandon Aubrey. Long snapper is Andrew DePola of Minnesota. Tight ends, George Kittle, Trey McBride. Offensive tackles, Lane Johnson, Penei Sewell, Tristan Wirfs. Guards, Landon Dickerson, Chris Lindstrom, Tyler Smith. Centers, Cam Jurgens, Frank Ragnow. Inside middle linebackers, Zack Baun and Fred Warner. Zack Baun and Fred Warner. How about that? Cornerbacks, J.C. Horn, Jalen Johnson, Byron Murphy, Devin Witherspoon. Free safety, Xavier McKinney. Strong safety, Budda Baker, Brian Branch. Return specialist, Kavontae Turpin. And special teamer is Kaderil Hodge of Atlanta. As for the Eagles players who made it, some background and some refreshers for all of you. Lane Johnson, the Lane Train, headed to the Pro Bowl. This is his 6th Pro Bowl honor. Also to his name, 4-time All-Pro. We'll learn who the All-Pros are coming up in the next couple of weeks. Lane Johnson has not given up a sack this year. He's only surrendered 1 quarterback hit. And I think this stat is so telling pertaining to Lane Johnson and the impact that he has on this Eagles offense, how good of a player he is. Throughout his career, Philadelphia, 102, 55, and 1 when he plays. They are 14-23 without him. And this was a Howie Roseman pick all the way back in 2013. Eagles really needed an offensive tackle back then under Chip Kelly. They take Lane Johnson 4th overall, and he's going to go down as one of the best overall players in the history of this organization. Saquon Barkley, also headed to the Pro Bowl. Howie Roseman stealing him from the New York Giants. Thank you, Giants. 2 years, $26 million in guaranteed money. That's $13 million per year. You think $13 million in guaranteed money this year was worth more than 2,000 rushing yards and 13 touchdowns? Those touchdowns just on the ground, by the way, a couple more through the air. Yeah, I think so. He's rushed for 2,005 yards this season, will likely win NFL Offensive Player of the Year. Other teams, including the Giants, not willing to up the ante and pay Saquon Barkley. Howie said, you know what? We don't have a lot of other needs on the offensive side of the football. Let's add one of the most dynamic weapons to our offensive arsenal, and he's changed the complexion of this offense. 101 yards away from breaking Eric Dickerson's all-time rushing record for yards in a single season. What we have witnessed from 26 this year, absolutely special. How about Cam Jurgens as well? And how about the organizational process for replacing a Hall of Fame center in Jason Kelce with a young player who in his first year as a starting center makes it to the Pro Bowl? I tweeted this out. Give me a follow on X at Chase_Senior. It's amazing that the Eagles lose a Hall of Famer, one of the best players in the history of this team, in Jason Kelce to retirement. They replace him with Cam Jurgens, who goes to the Pro Bowl this year. Kelce also helped Howie Roseman scout, find, and draft his replacement in the lead up to the 2022 draft. Howie consulted in Kelce and said, which centers do you like this year? Kelce said, Jurgens out of Nebraska reminds me a lot of myself. And when you watch him play, he does have a lot of the same qualities as Kelce. Somebody tweeted this to me, and I kind of agree. How Jurgens is playing this year might be better than how Kelce played last year. Up for debate. Landon Dickerson, another Howie Roseman draftee, and Howie this offseason signed him to a 4-year, $84 million contract extension. This marks 3 straight Pro Bowl appearances for Dickerson. Year 2, year 3, year 4. He was coming off a knee injury at Alabama when the Crimson Tide won a national championship. He played center at Alabama. Howie Roseman drafts him as a guard, and they took him 37th overall in the second round back in 2021. He's turned into a stud. And Jalen Carter has developed into one of the most dominant, disruptive players in all of football. He's really, truly had a breakout year this year, and it's been incredible to see the leap from last year to this year, where last year he was dominant in moments, but then wore down a little bit at the end of the year, and he even said, I wanted to improve my stamina. He's been able to do that, and he is dump trucking offensive linemen. He's powering through them. He's taking on double and triple teams. So good in rushing the quarterback, pretty good at stopping the run. All-Pro Defensive Rookie of the Year runner-up in 2023, a Pro Bowler in 2024, and this year he's second in snaps among all defensive tackles. That's durability. He's 5th in pass rush grade, according to PFF, 5th in pressures, and 6th in hurries. Now, coming up next, we're only starting to take flight here on the show. You see what I did there right here on Eagles Now? Starting to take flight? Yeah. We have to talk about Zack Baun at length. 2 Eagles players snubbed, more on Mailata and A.J. Brown, and why the Saquon Barkley decision by Nick Sirianni to not play him is the correct decision by this ball club moving forward. Before we do all of that, today's show, sponsored by our friends at Tushy. You can save big on Tushy today by using the code CHAT at hellotushy.com/chat. Guys, if you're convinced you're already the best version of yourself, you've never looked at your butthole. What, Chase? What are you talking about? Yeah, all that hair, all those spicy wings. Do yourself a favor and buy a bidet. Finally, a resolution that isn't a pain in the ass. Tushy bidets fit on your toilet in under 10 minutes, improving your health and saving you time, money, every time you bomb the bowl. My boy Trizzy Trace loves the Tushy bidet. He said it's game-changing, and so did his girl. At what point do we decide that stashing a wet, dirty plunger in a plastic bag is not okay? For me, it started off with the new year. Since switching to Tushy bidet, I've cut my TP use by 80%, and I haven't clogged the toilet once. Can't say that about our office. It's unfortunate. Tushy is the modern bidet attachment that instantly transforms your bathroom habits and your butt health for life. So instantly improve your health from the bottom on up. For a limited time, our listeners, our viewers, get 10% off their first bidet order when they use the code CHAT at checkout. Fits 95% of toilets, 8.5-minute do-it-yourself install, fresh as tap water, no outlet needed. We're going to put that link down below in the comment section and in the description of this video. You can even change the temperature of the water from cool to warm, and that'll feel good on your butthole. HelloTushy.com/chat. Thanks to them for sponsoring today's show. All right, we move forward with today's show. And we're talking about asses with Tushy. Zack Baun this year has not been ass. This Zack Baun story this year has been incredible. Named to his first Pro Bowl on Thursday, Howie Roseman identified him as an off-ball linebacker when the New Orleans Saints, after they drafted him in the 3rd round, exclusively used him as a pass rusher, and then Vic Fangio turned him into a stud who's a Pro Bowler and should be getting more serious Defensive Player of the Year conversations around his name. And I want to compare what Zack Baun's doing this year to what Luke Kuechly did when he won Defensive Player of the Year several years ago. 156 tackles for Kuechly, $150 for Baun. 10 TFLs for Kuechly, 11 for Baun. 1 sack for Kuechly, 3.5 for Baun. 5 forced fumbles for Baun, 0 for Kuechly. 4 picks for Kuechly, 1 interception for Baun, but Baun against the run, against the pass has been so disruptive, and he's such a highly graded player. Overall PFF grade of 90.1, 111 solo tackles, the most among all linebackers. His coverage grade number 1 among backers at 91.7, and the disruptive play, the 5 forced fumbles. You know what's also amazing? How Howie Roseman identified him and then signed him to a 1-year, $3.5 million contract, fully guaranteed, $1.1 million in base salary, $1.6 million cap hit, and for all of that and what he's done on the field, he could be an all-pro, and he's already named a Pro Bowler. Howie did it again. As for Jordan Mailata, not going to the Pro Bowl again, he has been snubbed. His Pro Football Focus grade of 96.9 is the highest among all offensive players in the National Football League. Among all offensive tackles, he's second in pass blocking grade at 91.7. He has the second highest island rate and the second best grade over expectation, and he's second in those categories behind his teammate in Lane Johnson. And I want to show this graph. Sometimes I'll nerd out on the analytics. Sometimes you have to go with your gut. I think it's great to balance both, but this is evaluating offensive tackles when left on an island. That's that island rate. Look at the 2 players in the top right corner, meaning they have separated themselves so far from other offensive tackles. It's Lane Johnson and it's Jordan Mailata. Howie Roseman puts an emphasis on building up the trenches offensively and defensively, and it's resulted in this Eagles team being dominant at the point of attack. And then there's A.J. Brown. Look, I'm not sure if he got snubbed from the Pro Bowl because he missed a few games throughout the course of the 2024 season, but look at his numbers despite the games missed. 67 catches, more than 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns. That's a really good yards per catch number. 3 seasons in Philadelphia, he's gone over 1,000 in every year. And this is a case of when you watch him, you know that you are watching something very special, and he is better than Terry McLaurin. Come on now. So Mailata, A.J. Brown, robbed from the Pro Bowl. And just because a player is not named to the Pro Bowl doesn't mean they can't be an All-Pro. Last year, Brandon Ayuk, wide receiver for the Niners, wasn't a Pro Bowler, but was a second-team All-Pro. All-Pros matter more for me, in my opinion. All right, let's ride out this. This is why I think the Philadelphia Eagles made the right decision in not playing Saquon Barkley in Week 18 against the Giants. The Eagles are about rings, not records. Chase rings, don't chase records. And it's important to note and remember, as I always like to say here on the show, that the word fan is short for fanatics. And obviously, part of the fan experience is watching your team win, being able to celebrate individual performances, being able to witness and watch history. So, not being able to watch Saquon Barkley at Lincoln Financial Field against his former team, where he had the opportunity to once again put the middle finger up toward the Giants, and we could laugh all the way to the bank about stealing Saquon from New York. Yeah, that's a bummer, right? And Saquon even said it, a little bit bummed out after Nick Sirianni's decision to not play him against the Giants. But what did Saquon also say? I signed with Philadelphia to win a Super Bowl, not to chase records. And Eagles fans have still witnessed history this year. Saquon still became the 9th player ever to run for more than 2,000 yards. What he did this year, one of the most incredible offensive seasons that we will ever see. And for him to do it after being with the Giants, it makes it even sweeter. But you also have to factor this in. He is the focal point of this offense. The Eagles are partially where they are offensively because of him. The Eagles are about chasing rings, not records, right? And they have a wonderful opportunity to chase and win a Super Bowl. And if you don't have Saquon Barkley because you played him and he got injured, that would be a disaster, and that would severely hamper your opportunity to win your second Lombardi trophy. Also factor this in. Jalen Hurts is still in concussion protocol. This run game isn't the same without Jalen Hurts with only Saquon Barkley. Imagine if you didn't have both of those players. Imagine if Jordan Mailata, Lane Johnson, they got hurt in this game trying to chase a record in a game that does not matter at all. You locked up the NFC East. You locked up the 2 seed. You should still be able to beat the Giants. You don't need to play in this game. You didn't get the first round bye. Use this week as your bye. Good decision by Nick Sirianni and company to not play Saquon Barkley. Be sure to hit that sub button. Join the movement here on Eagles Now as we chase 100,000 subs.